What is up everyone, I'm Durdam. I'm back with another very interesting video. Today I'll be covering some very important topics like how to prepare for your interview stages, how to communicate with professors, prepare your CV, cover letter, SOP, what should be the ideal layout, and a brief comparison of a PhD experience between USA, Europe and India, and what is the salary pay scale structure of a PhD student in Europe, and how much tax a student has to pay from his salary. Also, if you are a student who wants to support their family back at home country, at your home country, it could be India or any Asian country, then how much money can you actually send home? And even after all these other expenses, how much money could you be able to save monthly? So, apart from this, today I'll also talk about what are the benefits of being a student and what kind of a lab environment that you would get once you are doing your research in any European countries. So, these are all very interesting topics. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and press the bell icon so that you are always updated with my content. That would really make my day and motivate me. So let's begin.
So, how to actually self-analyze my application before and after?
Right. So this analysis only happens if you get some relevant feedback. For example,
Mm-hmm.
if for example you applied somewhere and the response generally what people send is something like your application was very good, but we found a better candidate. Then what would you do? You don't know
There is
what.
no feedback.
Yeah, there is
Yeah.
no feedback, and generally this would be the case.
Okay.
But generally what I'm saying is that if you apply to those positions where the
Mm-hmm.
project that is proposed in the advertisement has something to do with your experience, then you would get some then you actually have some chances of getting a good response. Now in the first 5 to 10 applications, whenever you get rejected, if for example you made, I mean the points that I talked about, if you
Mm-hmm.
you make a huge cover letter, huge motivation letter, put everything
Mm-hmm.
into CV, like all experiences, all conferences, all workshops, and so
Mm-hmm.
on, and it's too much cluttered, your application is too much cluttered, then you would not
Mm-hmm.
get a response. So think from the reader's point of view. When the recruiter sees your application, it should be very simple, straightforward, very
Mm-hmm.
minimalistic, and not too much like philosophy. These are the
Okay.
basic points to focus on. And if you are
Okay.
changing your application with according to the target position, you would get the
Mm-hmm.
position. And for
Okay.
example, this you would understand once you start your applications. So first 5 save
Okay.
applications, you would get to know on yourself that what is
Okay.
going wrong. The recruiters or the professor's point of view is that you are an investment for them. So
Agree.
he would want that you come here and you start working on the project and you make progress. There are
Mm-hmm.
some candidates who obviously you would not know everything. You would also learn some new things when you come here. But at least
Agree.
you should be familiar with the basic concepts of the field and the project
Mm-hmm.
which is proposed. Right?
Okay.
If these are
Yeah.
the particular things that you fulfill, you would generally get a position. Maybe
Okay.
obviously there would be a candidate which is better qualified than you. But for
Mm-hmm.
example, in the interview, you performed very well.
Mm-hmm.
You were very
Mm-hmm.
friendly, they were very comfortable talking to you, and that would
Mm-hmm.
change the game for you. Even if some
Okay.
candidate who is much more qualified than you is not
Uh-huh.
very friendly to talk to, he's very, rigid, or
Okay.
not very open to talk, he has not
Not
very good
flexible.
communication
Okay.
skills,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
would like impact negatively on his application,
Okay.
and you would get selected.
Okay.
So I would say don't stress too much.
Mm-hmm.
You have plenty of time to even plan and so on. These evaluations and these modifications you will know when you start actually by yourself. So
Okay.
it's not very complicated process.
Okay. So is reaching out to the current postdoc and the PhD or research associates helpful, or is it just reaching out to professor or the group leaders is only going to help us?
No, I mean it's quite helpful. For example, uh, actually, for example, like you reached out to me, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and for example, if there is a lab in which you really want to get a position, and
Mm-hmm.
you get in touch with some PhD student working in that lab,
Mm-hmm.
then I mean, if the student is agreeing to talk to you and
Mm-hmm.
give you some tips or something, it's
Yeah.
always helpful. But
Okay.
generally this does not happen. The students would not uh, because, for example, when you apply to the position, the
Mm-hmm.
professor in most cases would also consult other his lab members, which includes all the students and postdocs.
Okay.
That generally happens in your interview stage. It could be like you talk to professor in one session, and then you talk
Mm-hmm.
to the whole lab in another session,
Okay.
because you will be working in the lab. If the lab
Mm-hmm.
members are not comfortable talking to you, the professor would
Mm-hmm.
not take you.
Okay.
So it's
Even before the interview itself.
no, this is, I'm telling, that happens in the
Okay.
interview stage.
Okay.
But
Okay.
you asked that is reaching to the students and postdocs useful. I would say to somewhat, but generally no one responds. Well, the decision between Europe and US is completely personal, I would say. Some people like US
Okay.
more, and some people like Europe more. But I would say, from my conversations with other students, generally they do not like the language barrier, because here people
Mm-hmm.
speak German
Mm-hmm.
a lot, and they find it a bit intimidating that they have to learn the language to some level, to live day to day
Mm-hmm.
life, to buy groceries
Agree.
and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
generally, for example, if you go to US, the work life
Mm-hmm.
balance is pathetic. It's very bad.
It's like welcome to the new India.
Yeah,
It's
but I
kind of
mean, it's
India,
it's obviously
Indian
more
tradition.
advanced. You would get a very high salary, but
Mm-hmm.
the work life balance is shitty there. What I've heard from my colleagues that are there also.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, I mean, I cannot tell you anything much about US, but there
Mm-hmm.
the PhD duration is generally equal to India. Here you
Yeah.
have the chance to get your PhD done in 3-4 years.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but I would, that's why I mainly chose Europe, so to say, for PhD.
Okay. And is there any average salary in Europe, or is it determined individual countries' income slabs, let's say, or is it uniform all across Europe?
No, it's not uniform all across Europe. It depends on country to country. I would
Region
tell
to
you in
region.
Germany, maybe, if you're interested. So in a PhD, you would have a contract of 50% or 65%, or maybe
Okay.
even
Okay.
75%, but that's very rare.
Mm-hmm.
So this
Okay.
contract, so there is a pay level of E13 or
Mm-hmm.
TVOD13. O has this two dots. It's a German
Yes.
character.
Yeah.
So this is the general pay scale of the E13 level, is the general pay scale. In that
Mm-hmm.
there are certain levels. So every pay scale has 6 levels. So
Mm-hmm.
E13 would have level 1, level 2, level 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the maximum. Every
Mm-hmm.
PhD student starts at level 1. So he stays at level 1 for 1 year, then at level 2 for 2 years, level 3 at 3 years, and so on. Now, in your case, since you have some prior experience, and if your
Mm-hmm.
professor is kind enough, he might consider some of that experience, and you might
Mm-hmm.
start from level 2. In that case, your
Okay.
salary would be somewhat more.
Okay.
The salary also depends on the state in which you are living in Germany. For example, if
Okay.
you are in Bavaria, where I
Mm-hmm.
am, the pay scale is generally higher because everything here is expensive.
Okay.
If you are somewhere in outside Germany, like, sorry, not
Mm-hmm.
outside Germany, outside Bavaria, like
Yeah.
Berlin, Frankfurt, these places,
Mm-hmm.
there the pay scale would be somewhat lower because the it's cheap compared to Bavaria. So it
Okay.
also depends on the within the country. It also depends on the place in which you are there.
Okay. Okay. So
And
it's not uniform. It's dependent
no,
upon the regions.
yeah,
Okay.
but you I would say, do not worry too much about that. It's well paid everywhere. And
Yeah.
unless you are applying from DAAD, this DAAD, this is the
PhD.
organization that
Yeah.
also provides fellowship. There, the fellowship amount is quite low, I would say,
Okay.
compared to what you would get from independent, fully funded fellowship program.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. And this question actually comes up because I have to save some amount of money, and I come from a decent background, so I actually have to send some money also back to my family.
right, right,
I have responsibility of my parents, so actually I have to send some money back also. So I have
right,
to actually be sure about the fact that if I'm making a decision, that should not hamper them.
right.
Uh, it's kind of a personal decision to actually go for PhD, but this should not actually hamper my parents. So that's why I have to look on into these aspects also, be it salary or be the tax slabs over there.
Yeah.
So is it tax slab fixed, or it's actually somewhere around 30 to 40, or it's a flat tax over there?
No, I mean, when it depends, for example, it changes, so there is nothing as flat here. For example, here the
Mm-hmm.
taxes in Germany, especially, I'll tell
Mm-hmm.
everything in respect to Germany, since you are
Yeah.
focused also on Germany. In Italy and France,
Mhm.
it's different system. In Denmark,
Okay.
it's very different. So in
Okay.
Germany, the tax slab is generally, it's quite high, somewhere between 30 to 45%.
Okay.
But what you get in hand, it's everything after deductions, right?
Okay.
So all the deductions. So like what taxes you have is that you have your income tax, then you have your
Mm-hmm.
health insurance, then
Mm-hmm.
you have church tax, but that you can nullify in your contract because you're not a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an option to pay church tax. Then there is nursing tax, and so on. There is a lot of types of taxes.
But those are actually fixed and flat taxes.
Yeah, yeah. That you these are kind of compulsory taxes that you
Okay.
have to pay. And if, for example, you're taking some personal insurance, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if you're walking or biking on the road and you damage
Mm-hmm.
someone's car, so for that,
Mm-hmm.
if you have taken some kind of personal insurance, for that you would
Mm-hmm.
have to pay extra apart from your what you get from your salary.
Okay.
But
So this
yeah,
health insurance is actually, yeah. Please continue.
no, I mean these health insurances and the income taxes and the nursing, these taxes are kind of compulsory. So this will be deducted from your salary.
And this health insurance is actually provided by the institute governing where I actually have the permission to work with. That will be governing my health insurance, or I
Right,
do have to apply at my own end.
right. So there are two types of health insurances, public and private. You would
Mm-hmm.
be registered as in the public health insurance. So how
Okay.
this works is that you pay some amount from your salary, and the uh, employer would pay some amount, would contribute in
Mm-hmm.
your health insurance.
Okay.
So this is the general way all the PhD students and also postdocs would
Okay.
have their this health insurance, and in
Uh-huh.
this it would be covering everything. For example, whenever
Okay.
you are sick, you can go to the hospital, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't need to pay anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, the savings before and after sending some money back is actually sufficient enough, as you have mentioned in one of your videos also. I guess in the last video also, you mentioned regarding that.
Right, right. So
Not
I mean
not
it.
the postdoc, just before the postdoc one.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
mentioned that.
I think so. So it basically depends. For example, how much money you want to send. So for
Okay.
example, it would depend on that. For example,
Okay.
if you are sending, let's say, 500 euros, that's about
Mm-hmm.
40,000 rupees, close to 42,000 rupees, depending on
Yeah.
the
Okay.
exchange rate.
Yeah.
Um, if you think that is sufficient, and if your salary is about 1600 or 1500 euros when you start,
Mm-hmm.
that's generally
Mm-hmm.
the scale, I would say. You can expect
Okay.
something between 14 to 2000 euros in this range,
Okay.
and this would depend a lot on which city you are in,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So if you
Mm-hmm.
have sent 500 euros, still you have about 1000 euros left in your hand. Then you pay out, would say, 3 or 400 euros in rent, and you
Mm-hmm.
spend everything like, so
Groceries
basically
and internet
500
stuff.
plus, let's say, 700. That's also a
Mm-hmm.
lot, but generally I take the worst case scenario. If you're spending like crazy,
Yeah.
like 700 euros, so
Yeah.
still you
Yeah.
would be left with some 300-400
300.
euros
Yeah.
in hand.
Yeah. So, accommodations during the first few months of my stay. So, do I have to actually focus कि मैं यहीं से book करके जाऊँ, and then actually I have to look forward for the accommodation there,
Right.
or should I actually stay with the university accommodations for 1 or 2 months?
I mean, there is no compulsory. Whatever you find is cheap and convenient for you, you can do that. अगर मान लो
Okay.
कि यूनिवर्सिटी वाले आपको अकोमोडेशन देने को राजी हैं और
Mm-hmm.
मतलब इट्स चीप, इट्स नॉट वेरी एक्सपेंसिव, then go for it,
Mm-hmm.
because anyway during your visa application you have to show
Mm-hmm.
your accommodation proof that you have a
Okay.
booked room for
Mm-hmm.
this 1 or 2 months. So
Okay.
generally there is this student in work
Mm-hmm.
that would help you out with the accommodation when one like for the initial months and so on.
So, is there any coursework also, as in India or in US? We find there are courseworks also during the PhDs. So, does Europe also actually has any courseworks?
Yeah. So as a PhD student, I think you have to collect some amount of credit points to
Mm-hmm.
submit your thesis, and you would have to do some courseworks. So
Okay.
in the university, so these are like
Mm-hmm.
not like regular courses. These are generally block courses. So block courses
Okay.
meaning that these would be in a length of one week or 10 days,
Mm-hmm.
something like this. Some
Okay.
practical skill that you want to learn, and the university
Okay.
has all these method courses which you can
Mm-hmm.
enroll, and then you can learn it. It's everything for free
Okay.
once you register as a student.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
as a PhD candidate, one will be actually registered with the institute itself, which is actually giving you or governing your PhD work. And as a PhD candidate, I'll also be enrolled as a student. Is it right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I can enjoy the benefits of the student also, and as a research candidate also.
I mean, you would not. There is no benefits as a research candidate, but there are benefits as a student. So the main benefits are
Yeah.
that you get the student ID card,
Yeah.
which lets you like travel in all public transports for free. Plus,
Mm-hmm.
in the university mensa means cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
All the food that you get would be at there are three price slabs for food:
Mm-hmm.
guest price, employee price, and student price. Student price is
Mm-hmm.
the cheapest. फॉर एग्जाम्पल 5 यूरो का एक डिश है, वो 5 यूरो
Mm-hmm.
का गेस्ट के लिए होगा, 4 यूरो का एम्प्लॉय के लिए सॉरी, और 3 यूरो का स्टूडेंट के लिए. तो ऐसा टाइप का डिफरेंस रहता है, तो
Okay.
स्टूडेंट्स को बेनिफिट मिलता है उस सेंस में.
Yeah.
या
Okay. And the last question is, what's the environment in the labs in general over, let's say, Europe, or in case of you in Germany?
नो इट्स
Is it
रियली गुड.
welcoming, or it's like in
It's
welcoming, encouraging environment over there?
या
In contrast to what I see over in, let's say, India.
no, I mean it's for example, when you join PhD in India, you have to do this 1 year coursework, and during
Yeah.
this whole 1 year you do not do anything related to your PhD basically.
Agree.
And this is not the case here. You join the
Mm-hmm.
lab, and then you start your work basically. You generally the people are quite welcoming. The
Mm-hmm.
professor is also quite welcoming, but
Mm-hmm.
there are also cases where I have seen that the student is not happy in his lab environment.
Mm-hmm.
But there are exceptions in everywhere, but
Agree.
mostly do not worry
Mhm.
about that. Here the lab environment, the research work culture is very nice, and
Okay.
they have very good work ethics, and you
Okay.
would get a very good environment. No, I
Yeah.
mean in doing PhD in India, it's also, you have to see that, at this point most of the researchers do not think about, but I think they should think about, which is the financial part of it. In
Mm-hmm.
PhD,
Yeah.
if you qualify CSR net or DBT net or UGC net, and you get
Mm-hmm.
the maximum fellowship of about 40,000, and
Yeah.
during
40K.
JRF, and
Mm-hmm.
45 during your SRF.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that, let's say after 5 years, how much you have as a financial strength. You can never be financially independent in that amount of money. And also there would be there are a lot of complications also. The whole research culture is very different in India.
Agree.
Okay guys, before finishing the video, just I would like to say that subscribe to the channel. It really helps me and motivates me to keep making such videos. And give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and spread the word. Help out each other. See you. Bye bye.